Hello, it's the Anfield wrap. It's the Monday after the Saturday before when we smashed the champions of the Premier League. Everyone's bouncing, everyone's positive, so we're going to talk about why. And with me to do that is ESPN's Glenn Price. He insisted on that, by the way. Adam Smith, also known as Adam Stevens, who's been in the Blood Brothers and on the telly and loads. Rob Gutmann, barman extraordinaire. For fuck's sake. And Dan Vincent, a fella who's boss at painting houses.
What a billing we got.
So
it's all right.
You've got, you know, that is your job.
Oh, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. So, you know, look him up. He's good. He painted my next door neighbours. But anyway, who's asked? First home game then. Well, let me say first of all, I wanted to say this first of all. Liverpool have now played all of last season's top 3 in the opening 4 games, and now we're going to Chelsea on Friday. So this isn't an easy start, and yet, you know, we're doing all right. We're smashing champions in our own backyard and all that. So first home game then, the first look at Anfield Large. Rob, we'll start with you because you're looking at me. Biggest attendance since 1977 apparently, although oddly some empty seats kicking round. Yeah. Ends up being the worst defeat for Leicester in a year. Let's not forget that, you know, they were pretty good last season. So yeah, just impressions of it all first of all. I mean, let's do the stand stuff and all that because everyone's talking about it still. So, you know, what did you think? Did you get down early? Did you have a look around?
I got down early, was having a bevy.
Well in.
We're not looking at the stand. I saw the stand as I came up 1 minute to kick off, just in time to sing You'll Never Walk Alone drunkenly. Do you know what? People's reactions depends on what part of the ground you sit in. And I sit dead opposite it in the centenary, in the upper centenary, and it freaked me out, quite frankly. It was too big. I mean, you know, obviously it's a good thing, but I sat there going, this is an Anfield. It's like I was sitting in my seat spec, but suddenly I was at the Emirates or in Cardiff or in Wembley. It just felt overscaled, and it took me a good while to get my calm back. I thought it was like something, you know, something when you're a kid and your parents paint the house a different colour, and you're just upset about it for the sake of it because it's different. It was just too different for me. By the time we scored our 4th goal, though, I was calmer. I was okay with the new Anfield, and yeah, atmosphere-wise, it was good. Yeah,
I can't really see it where I am. I'm 304 in the Kop, and like that's sufficiently far back that I can basically see the size of the main stand as it used to be, really, and no more of it. But yeah, atmosphere-wise and attendance-wise, it obviously made a difference. I thought there was a couple of real moments, Dan, where you noticed the difference. Like I thought, You'll Never Walk Alone at the start was good and loud, and it felt like everyone got involved in that, which you'd expect. But also there was a decent We Are Liverpool at one point where it seemed everyone was bouncing in the main stand and up on their feet, and you were like, hello. Yeah. This isn't what used to happen.
You just hope it carries on, don't you? Because obviously every game now, you want to. It was always going to be like that for the first game. Yeah. You know, everyone got there. We were talking about it outside. Everyone got there early, apart from Rob. You know, had a good time outside. Everyone was taking photos and all the rest of it, and really looked like they were up for it before the players had even got there. So you just want it to carry on now each game, because I know there's been a lot of, like, you know, banter back and forth that, like, you know, about all people who's in the Kop and all that and all the rest of it. But, you know, we'll see, won't we? Because it probably won't last with all them in the main stand. But hopefully it will. Like, there's no reason why it shouldn't. You know, we say we're in a good form and all at the moment. Next home game, just want everyone to get down there, hopefully early again, and that's what I'd love everyone to start doing now. Really make the most of it.
I mean, we've got like a little WhatsApp group on the go which we're using to create the thing that goes out on a Sunday now called 10 from the Terrace, which is just 10 random points that end up in that WhatsApp group that I think are worthwhile, including Johnny Milburn's awful choice of pizzas. But in that group as well, one of the things that was noticeable is quite a few of the lads in there were in the main stand, you know, both upper and lower, and they all said it was bouncing, it was a good atmosphere. They all said as well, I mean, Johnny went into a bit of detail, which was quite good. He was saying, you know, people, including himself, have waited for a long time for a season ticket in their own name. They finally got one up there, and he said, you know, that he felt like it was sort of noticeable that everyone was there going, right, I'm going to make the most of it. I mean, it has been 4 months and 1 day since the home game before that. So, you know, there was... And I think the R5 kick-off helped as well. I think everyone seemed to make a bit of a day of it before they went down there, which always helps. So it was good, wasn't it, Glenn?
It was, yeah. I was actually in the press box in the main stand, which is in a similar position.
For ESPN?
For ESPN. Yeah. And as the point you made, that we are Liverpool, I think it was after the second goal or something, and it was absolutely bouncing. Like, people in front of me were getting up and that. It just did have a feel that, people have waited so long. I mean, and it was against a fairly decent opponent, so, they knew they'd have to be up for it. And, 5:30 kickoff, I think when I got to the ground about 2:30, that it was already busy around then. There was various things going on that the club have put on, but you just hope it can continue, because when it gets to sometime in November or December, we've seen atmospheres be a bit flat against the likes of, I don't know, Watford or teams like that. The thing I liked was Klopp had to go at the crowd for singing his name when that was really loud. So was it before the Vardy chants, he made a shush gesture towards the Kop, like when they were singing his name.
And then when Vardy gets it, he goes nuts.
And then he kept shaking his head, and then when Vardy goes up and misses that chance from which Mignolet saves, he basically offers the whole of the Kop out, just absolutely fuming. You can't have it both ways, can he?
Well, he confirmed it later, didn't he? He was asked about it, and he said, "Look, I don't want to."
He didn't ask about it. He actually
he brought it up himself.
He brought it up himself.
Did he? Yeah. So he said, "Please don't sing my name before the game is decided." When the Kop started singing it, Leicester were alone in front of Simon Mignolet. I don't play. It was the same at Arsenal. It's nice, but not necessary. I'm really on the side of the players. I'm responsible for our bad performances, and they're responsible for our good ones. You miserable bastard. But he had a bit of a pop there, and he's probably saying get behind the players more than him, which there's probably a point in that, but that's not for today. Probably make a show out of that, to be honest. So Adam, walking up to the ground, then you're bouncing, it's first day of the season, all the rest of it. Did you have any little concerns popping around in your head where you're thinking, they are reigning champions, and any thoughts about the way the Burnley game went, for instance? Or the other thing that sort of popped into my head is there's huge expectation here. It's your big grand opening of your new big stand. It's the first home game of the season. It's the biggest crowd for 30-40 years. Did you have any little doubts in your head where you were thinking, hang on, could they get a bit of stage fright? Could it be new ground syndrome, which I think we've seen a few clubs suffer from?
No, I wasn't particularly worried about stage fright or anything like that, but I did think that maybe there was a chance that Leicester might be underestimated, and I think it's easy to forget just how miserable they were as far as letting people score last season was concerned. They conceded 36, which is less than one a game. 15 clean sheets. They weren't a sort of generous team last season, and everybody was sort of talking about it as if we should batter them because it's only Leicester, like as if they hadn't just won the league the previous season.
And they've only gone to the players apart from
Kante.
Exactly,
apart from Kante, which I think is a huge loss actually, Kante. But just looking at it, I wonder if there's an extent to which they're going to do what they did last season, be miserable at the back, not let us have too many chances, keep it tight, and that the sort of joyous jubilation will slowly turn into a bit of misery and sort of fear of what was going on and stuff. But that was what I was worried about. Obviously, that didn't happen, so that's all right.
Yeah. Rob, I mean, what I wanted to get into here, and I mean, we've done the little positive bit at the start, and we'll get back to all being dead positive, but I thought, even though we've beat them 4-1, even though they're the champions, all that, I actually didn't think, across the 90 minutes, it's a perfect performance. I actually thought they started quite slow. There was a few mistakes. Mané in particular, I thought his touch and some of the things he tried just didn't come off, and you wondered whether it was going to be his day. Ultimately, you can now say it was. But just the start, I just thought, are they a little bit hesitant here? Is the build-up a little bit too slow? Is it going to be one of those days? And then they seem to click into gear.
You're a hard taskmaster.
I know. It's right.
I don't know. Do you know, perfect... The thing that undermines it is we made them look pretty rubbish, actually. I mean, I turned to my mate next to me after we were 1-0 up, actually, and I said, these are fucking shite. I mean, you know what? I said, let's forget that they're Leicester. I mean, all Adam's saying is correct. I had all those little nerves beforehand going, they're not just going to lie down here. They could dog out a miserable draw or even nick one here. But I thought they were terrible. That's the only negative I can put on us, is actually, I don't know just how bad Leicester really are. We'll find out. This is a result, I think the season will show how good it is or not. They may get torn apart game in, game out. I don't think that Leicester side, it'd be a miracle they finish above 10th, in my opinion. And I know that's probably famous, people saying shit like this all last season as they romped to the league. But I don't think I'll start. Do you know what? So I don't like to see it. It sounds mad, and maybe it's just because I think it tempts fate. I don't like to see us start too fast, as in literally we have a blitz in first 3 minutes. Unless you score, of course, because that helps. But because sometimes, I don't think that works out for you. I thought we eased ourselves into that game nicely. I was glad that we were still, having let them get a goal back, get a goal back before half-time. Everyone in that ground was saying, oh, it's just like us, you know what's going to happen next. But for us just to pick up the thread after half-time, get the other goal, a nice goal, looked like we could score at any time. Even when we made the changes, we're still hunting for goals at the end. Perfect performance, I don't know, because we can see the stupid goal, but I thought it was pretty perfect,
Okay. Dan, did you have any sort of concerns when you saw the starting lineup? Obviously Lucas playing in the back four, Sturridge as well, perhaps semi-surprisingly, perhaps not included. Did you look at it and think, don't know?
Not really, no. I didn't know that Lovren was out, to be honest, until I seen Lucas warming up, and you can always tell when they're warming up who's playing and who's not, and I noticed Lucas there, so obviously then Lovren wasn't there, so we knew he was playing. But I'm more than happy with Lucas centre-half, so it didn't bother me at all. I've got full confidence in him. Every time he's played there, he's played well. So, I wasn't too bothered. And, we said on the same show last week that we'd about started Sturridge, so I was more than happy Sturridge was playing. I'd always play Sturridge, and I'm glad in a way. I know we'll get onto him later, but I think he proved that he can easily play in this system, and things like that. So no, I wasn't too concerned with the lineup at all. I was happy with it. But just going back to what you said then, I was the same. Watching the game, I thought me and Glenn were saying outside before that, Mané for the first 15-20 minutes. He just couldn't get into it. No. Every touch was off. He was trying to take the man on him, was getting tackled straight away. And I actually said to me, fella, in a weird way, I hope we win and he plays bad here, because then it just stop all that, if we can beat Leicester and he doesn't play well and then he goes on to have a good game, he still wasn't man of the match for me by any stretch. I think he's one of them players at the moment that he's going to end up having a half decent game and everyone's going to be, oh man, he was sick. Yeah. And it's he played all right. I don't think he played particularly, I don't think he was amazing by any stretch, and he's played better than previous games for me. But no, other than that, I was more than happy with the performance.
Any other little niggles, Glenn? I'm just gonna get it out there before we all start start the party. So So my other little one, again, it might just be me, and I might get slaughtered when everyone listens to this. But I wonder, did we try to be too clever at the times at the back in terms of playing it out? There was times I was watching, I thought, you could go long here, boys, and not put yourselves under this pressure. Obviously, there's what happens to Lucas, which I think is a bit of a once-in-a-lifetime type situation. One of them, and according to Howard Webb, shouldn't have even been allowed. Can't be bothered telling you about that rule, look it up. But also, there's the mad pass he gives to Kev Stewart. There's one out to Wijnaldum as well, where he loses it almost straight away. And there was times where I just thought, not helping yourselves here.
There was one to Klein as well, yeah.
So quite a few times there was a little concern in my head that, we're trying to be too clever at the back. So do you think that was the case, or is it...
Local crank, Gareth Roberts.
Is it local kick-off Gareth Roberts again, is it? Yeah.
Roberts rants.
I think Mignolet, we might come on to this later, I think...
He's next.
Yeah, we'll go on to that then. I think he's the one. I know there's an extra 8,000 people in the stadium, but there's also an extra 8,000 people to wince whenever he's got the ball, and that did come across a few times. There are times when you do think that, just launch it, because he's never been comfortable on the ball. His kick-ins is awful, if I'm honest. It's
not just that though, is it? It's that he's hesitant as well before he even does it, so he doesn't.
He doesn't learn. He doesn't
see things quickly either. For me,
no, he doesn't learn from 3 years of being in goal and wrecking everyone's heads. But I think it might be a case of Karius is sort of been known to be decent with his feet, so it's a case of getting the defenders used to having the ball at the feet, under a bit of pressure. That I couldn't watch the game because I had a load of work to do by the final whistle that much. So Mignolet was the only one that I really spotted as a real negative point.
Well, this was going to be my next question along the, while we're on this thread is, Adam, I know you're pretty much fed up with Mignolet. You put this in the group over the weekend as well, and Dan's another one as well.
Me too.
You're one as well, are you? I think it's fair to say I am as well. But I just thought today, we were talking in the office before I walked over, and going back to an article that David Priest wrote about Karius. I just wanted to give you this quote. He says, "It's clear that Karius is more comfortable." This is when he was doing quite a direct comparison to Mignolet. It's clear that Karius is more comfortable in possession of the ball. His short to mid-range passing's excellent. He has calmness when picking passes under pressure, either short to central defenders and midfielders coming deep to receive the ball, or with 30 to 40 yard passes out to fullbacks over the head of opposition players. Now that's pretty much bang on what I was wanting to see at times. So, Adam, do you think we get Karius in there and we start to see what he's about? I mean, Klopp was asked about this, and he played it right down the middle. He didn't go, no, we're sticking with Simon. He just sort of said it's nice to have the option, and maybe did a bit of a wink, or I might have imagined that.
Yeah, I mean, I just... The thing is, I think it seems to be a managerial instruction to be playing it out from the back, which is fine unless your goalkeeper's a fucking idiot. In which case, you're really putting yourself under major pressures. And one of the big things, I think, is for the goal, you're talking about, look up the rule and everything. It should have been disallowed, fine. Look it up why. But Mignolet can see the Leicester player running into the box. He can see that he's there, and yet he still plays it. So it's not like he's appeared from the floor and Mignolet couldn't possibly have seen him. He's wearing blue. He's there. It's really obvious, and yet he plays a short ball out to Lucas. It's Lucas's fault. He miscontrols it and then he overhits the pass, whatever. But still, that comes from Mignolet not seeing that there's a player running onto him. And then for the next 5 minutes, he's all over the show. He did deal generally quite well with Leicester's big players, but immediately after the goal, he comes to punch a ball, doesn't get anywhere near it. Robert Huth gets a header on it. It's near, but for like a foot lower, it's 2-2, and then everybody's going, RG, we've thrown away this 2-0 lead. And I think it is a less exciting second half. And giving balls away, stupid passes to nobody, blah blah blah.
Good save from Vardy though.
Is it? This is the
I'm with you,
thing. Honestly, I don't think it is. It's a save that any other keeper makes, and you go, it's fair enough. Good save that. It's not. It's not a world class save. The problem is, I think he is. He is out quite quick, which in his defence is unusual. He's out quite quick, but it's the sort of save that is latched upon as this amazing thing that the goalkeeper's done. Everyone's like, look at that Mignolet save, because normally he concedes. It wasn't a brilliant save. If he was a brilliant goalkeeper, over the course of Arsenal and Burnley, we concede 5 goals from 5 shots on target. I don't care what you say. That's not because the defence has let him down or anything else. It's because he's shite. And the sooner that he gets binned off, the happier everybody's going to be. Even if Karius does basically the same stuff, at least he's good looking. Like, at least there's something about him that redeems him from having a face that looks like he's been hit by a pan. I've got no time at all for Mignolet. And when people sort of latch onto this idea of, he made a good save. No, he didn't. It was a run-of-the-mill save. And if he conceded it, we'd be more annoyed.
A free preview of our subscriber show, Ban This Filth there.
Simon's a big listener to this show.
He's right though, isn't he? Everything he said's right.
Can I have all that on a T-shirt?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when someone's shit, when people are like happy that Mignolet was battered and bruised, and good. Do you know what I mean? I was made up to see him in a little bit of pain. Do you know what
I came back from the toilet. I came back from having a piss, and there he is being done by the physio, and I punched the air.
And the save from Vardy, exactly what Adam just said. It's a save the keepers make every. I see Ben Foster making them every week. It's just a save. He's one-on-one. He saves it. Is that what he's not supposed to do?
All right, boys. Let's be positive now. Then let's move on. Let's move on to 2 of the stars of the show. I've put them together. Mané and Firmino. We've talked already about Mané had the sort of string of poor touches to kick off. But what I wanted to ask you all about is that I think at least that it's a real positive that didn't get to him basically, and that he managed to work his way into the game, get involved, and end up offering quite a key contribution towards the end. So that in itself to me is a really good thing, because I think we heard quite a lot of negativity about him before he played the game for us, in terms of you had Southampton fans saying, well, he was a bit up and down for us and he's not consistent and his heart's not always there, and there was all these little tales of being late for training and things like that. So it's still early in the season, obviously, and we should always give that caveat, but he seems to be working it all out for himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. People, and this comparison is going to continue to annoy people for some stage, but the last player we had who hit the ground running sensationally was Suarez. Now, Mane's not Suarez. Well, he may never be, probably will never be Suarez, but the comparison's there because he's hit the ground running sensationally. But Suarez did not play brilliantly from first minute to the 90th from the word go, or even
he just kept hitting the post,
even consistent. Well, yeah, but he also had games where you'd knock the ball into his feet, he'd twist, turn, lose it. The number of times Suarez would be allowed to lose the football. But let's move away from a Suarez comparison before. Get slaughtered somewhere.
Go John Barnes instead.
No, let's do Johnny Barnes, yes, because they've got the same skin colour. Yes, that will work, and they're wingers. I thought Mané was fantastic. I liked the fact that it was in bits and pieces in the game. He kept coming again, as it were. Before he scores his goal, there's that brilliant chance he creates for Sturridge, where I've watched it again today several times over, and he gives Lallana the eyes on the 1-2, and he's in behind him. It's his pace and intelligence. You see pace a lot, but pace with that kind of thinking power is pretty hard.
What's good about him, I think, is that I think if you when you're watching it, and I imagine this must be the case for the defender, he almost telegraphs where he's going a lot. But it's just a sheer pace. You can't get there. You might know what he's going to do, but he's just got that sudden shift and that pace that you just can't get to it. He shifts it enough to be able to do what he wants to do, and you just simply can't stop that unless you've got Inspector Gadget legs.
Well, that's what done. That panics them. Absolutely panics them beyond belief. I mean, the final goal he makes for Firmino, the fourth goal. You think it's like one of those against Tottenham where the keeper's going to just take him out. But actually, watch how he takes it round him. It's a 50-50. He still stays calm and just casually sidesteps him as if he had 10 yards on him. It's mad.
It was brilliant, though, to see a keeper caught out like that as well, wasn't it? Especially Schmeichel. Yeah. I mean, I sort of hate when they do that anyway. I mean, especially Vaughan was doing it for Spurs all the time the other week as well, and it was like, now that he's come out that far and got caught, hopefully they all stop doing that against us now, and we can just score more goals.
That'll happen loads this season. You can see that happening so much this season. Yeah. That ball to the middle and him just running.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just the outlet all the time with him.
People are going to have to sit off us because of that pace.
Exactly, yeah.
But then he'll get in behind people. I mean, you see the chance he makes for Sturridge. That's how he plays against the deep defence. So if you want to push up, you'll go over. You'll go through.
He's skillful as well, isn't he? Yeah. So even like one-on-one in tight situations, you can beat a man. It's not just hit it and
it's
run.
Not sheer pace.
He's just a quality player, like.
Yeah. What does remind me of Barnes in him is in taking people on. There's never a touch too many from him either. It's almost like he's running, I don't know, in zigzag lines. You know what I mean? It's not a step over. The Arsenal goal is a classic example. Although he beats two men, the way he does it is a model of economy. Yeah, it's one touch, then another, a final one, and then the shot. It's not a dribble. It's really direct.
Goal of the month, by the way, on Match of the Day. The other one was Firmino. I mean, to me, I was one of the ones that we had regular debates about him last season. I feel like we're talking about a different player to the one certainly we're seeing under Rodgers now. I just feel like he's gone up quite a few notches, and that was arguably perhaps his best game for Liverpool that I thought. I mean, there was lots of debate about who was man of the match and various names were thrown around. For me, it was definitely him. I just thought his feet were tremendous. There's a bit where he does about three of them in the middle. And like, I've watched, you're watching that Mané bit back. I've watched that back this morning about 7 times, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely magic. And all of a sudden now, I think we're suddenly going, hang on, this fella's a superstar, Glenn.
Yeah, my favourite bit of the game was when he plucked it out from space, plucked the ball out from space, just in the area, right by the byline as well. Yeah, one of the things I was impressed with was his intelligence on the day. I know Sturridge creates his first goal, but you've got to have the know-how to, exploit that space, which he does really well. Like Milner's got his eyes locked on that space, and Firmino spotted it and got onto the end of it, and then he keeps really calm on the ball
on both goals.
Finishes it, on both goals, especially when Mané underhits the pass for a second. Could have been well easy to lash that. But yeah, he has become one of, I don't know, Klopp's probably... If Klopp had a choice, would you say that he'd pick him as... If he's going into any game against any opponent, he'd pick him leading the line? Would you say that'd be his first choice at the moment?
I reckon. So I think he loves him and vice versa. And the other thing I'd say about Firmino analysis aside is that he's always got a smile on his face at the moment. He looks like he's really enjoying his football, and I think that's a huge thing. He's just everything he does just oozes confidence. I think one of the ones that the reasons I used to get frustrated with him, and then people threw loads of stats at me. And I was like, but I'm just watching him, the previous incarnation of Firmino, and I just felt like he went missing in some games. Just like you could go a good period of the game and you thought, oh, what's he done? Where was he?
I think he was always working, that's the thing. But I don't think he was getting the quality touches on the ball we're now seeing. But I think he was always working, and that's what they like. A bit like Lallana, actually, in a way. In Lallana, we're now beginning to properly appreciate rather than grudgingly. But he was always... What Klopp was seeing was he's perfect for his system, because the work rate was always there.
Yeah, Lallana's really benefited, hasn't he, from going backwards basically in the formation. And now we're not talking about the end product, and then funnily enough, when we're not talking about the end product, he suddenly gets some. I mean, I love that finish. Absolute rocket, isn't it? Absolute rocket.
I think I hope that England goal's a real kicking on point for him. I mean, he's already scored this season against Arsenal, hadn't he? But you could see the way he celebrated that England goal last week. I think that was a monkey on his back, having not scored at international level. In terms of seeing himself as a top level player, shouldn't count. He shouldn't really give a toss. It's only bloody England, but against Mickey Mouse teams half the time. But I think it meant something to him, that. And for him to not panic like that and to strike that ball like that showed he's a different player.
What I wanted to talk about as well is the idea of the way Klopp's been sort of really bold this season, I think, in terms of his lineups and the way he's moved people around. And there's obviously been loads of talk about being played out of position and all the rest of it. But I was watching that there and I was thinking, it doesn't really look to me that you've got like a true ball winner in the midfield. And yet it almost doesn't seem to matter simply because they all run so hard. So there's no one throwing themselves round, throwing in like Steven Gerrard stroke Steve McMahon tackles, but there's also almost no need to, because they're just shoulder to shoulder with anyone who ever tries to make a run. And you sort of can't go anywhere. I mean, I thought Henderson was really good at that all game, and that he never stopped running. He was covering really well. And also, to be fair to Henderson as well, one of the criticisms this season was that he's being too many sideways passes, too negative. It's almost like he's took that on board, because I thought almost everything was forward on Saturday.
Every pass was vertical, wasn't it? I know. So the goal, the Milner pass is an example of that. You're seeing it time and time again if you watch it back. Everything is quick into feet. I thought, are we able to counter-attack them so often, considering we were the home side? Yeah. But it's because everything's so quick and vertical into feet. That's what makes a difference. It always feels like a counter-attack, because they've never got a chance to settle and park the bus in front of you. You've turned them before they've even woken up.
On Henderson as well, it's interesting, Adam, go with you on this, that this is basically something like his third or fourth position now for Liverpool, if we include the brief spell at right back against Blackburn as well. And it's almost like a position that he's learning, and yet seemed he'd come on leaps and bounds Saturday, that in a position that he's learning.
Yeah, to be honest, I said after the match, I thought he was my man of the match personally. I know Firmino and Mané obviously grabbed the headlines because they got the goals and they did all that, the sort of headline grabbing stuff. But I thought Henderson was absolutely brilliant, and he gets to, it doesn't, not officially assists, but he plays the ball out for Mané for the opening goal that gets passed off to Sturridge to then put back in the middle, and he also plays the ball out for Mané to round Schmeichel, for the fourth, wasn't it? He was everywhere. He never stopped running, never stopped passing, never stopped offering, an option. He was bollocking people when they were out of position, and the ref in the ref serve for the whole game, which I know Dan's a fan of. Like all of that sort of stuff. I thought it was a really brilliant performance from somebody who not everybody is still on side with. Basically because they're comparing him to Gerrard, which is absolutely bonkers if you think about it. Because Gerrard's one of the best players that we've had, literally in the top 5 players the club's had. And because Henderson isn't Gerrard, he gets a bit of stick. Now, obviously, last season he wasn't at his best when he had his injury and stuff. But I think people forget how good he was in 13-14 as well, when he was really brilliant in that attacking mould. He got racked up loads of assists, a few goals. The miss is a bad one, can't get away from it. But thankfully it didn't matter. If it mattered, maybe you get a bit more annoyed. But he's not a match of the day player. You know what I mean? If you watch match of the day, so Mané, Firmino, they were the top players for Liverpool, and Henderson, all you saw of him was the miss. But actually in the ground, and I deliberately made an effort to watch him, and I just thought he was really, really, really good actually.
I think that miss is a big deal though, Adam. And this is the thing I'm not being negative about it, because I think he did play really well. He wouldn't be my man of the match, but everyone played very, very well. I think that miss is criminal size of this would be really harsh. But it's as bad an error as a keeper dropping one, the way Mignolet does. Yeah, at this level, I think this is the thing he has to go beyond. I think his work rate looks there, his appetite looks there, his intelligence, all that you describe as perfect. But you can't over-focus on it, but we can't let players off the hook, I don't think, for things like that. You're right, it wasn't crucial, but that's not an excuse, really.
No.
You should have had the composure there, I think.
I do agree. I 100% agree. It is a bad miss. You can't get away from it. But I think it depends on whether he continues to do that consistently, or whether that's something that he develops, under Klopp now. But also, Gerrard's hit a few of them in his career. Players have hit them. I think it's the fact that he hasn't scored regularly enough to let him off the miss. Just, if you see what I mean.
He feels like he's a big thinker to me, Henderson, in that, I think you probably get players that are just blasé about it all, and they'll just go to training every day and blah, 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 and get involved, and it won't really bother them. I mean, we interviewed Steve Nicol last week, and he was asked to play in all kinds of positions, and you could literally tell when we asked him the question, didn't bother him, didn't faze him for 1 second. I think Henderson's a huge thinker in terms of what he can be, his own ability, probably giving himself a hard time, to be honest. I mean, I've mentioned it before on here, and so it doesn't matter if I mention it again now, but he did an interview with Neil Jones from the Echo a long time back, and at the end of the interview, when you turn the recorder off and all that, he actually said to Neil, what do the fans think of me that do you know what I mean? And I thought that was quite insightful, that's happening, that he's obviously he's analysing what he's doing afterwards over and over and trying to get better at it. And maybe, maybe Rob now he'll look at it and say, well, that's a few times now where I probably should have finished things. So, maybe he'll do the old cliched, stay behind that Melwood and do some shooting practice. But I know you were impressed with him as well, weren't you, Don?
Yeah, I thought he was quality. I really do. I mean, exactly what Adam said, really. The ones who score the goals are always going to take the headlines and the flashy players and stuff. But you tend to, focus on one or two players during a match when you're watching it. And Henderson was the one who kept taking me eye all the time, and again I'm only repeating it, but the amount of talking he does, I mean, there was times when he was bollocking James Milner for something, and I was thinking, you're 4 or 5 years younger than him there, he's won leagues in, but he's not bothered, Henderson. It was what needed to be done, and constantly in the ref's ear, all to the point where I'm thinking, you're going to get booked in a minute. But because he's captain, he's allowed to get away with it, and I'm really into that. I just feel like he's been on the edge so many times, Henderson. I'm a big Henderson fan, and it baffles me why people don't rate him. And I think when obviously he nearly got the move, didn't he? When Rodgers was trying to get rid of him, he's had to sort of fight back from that. Then he had a great season. Then it's all the mad links to Tottenham, the middle of last season. And then again this summer, he's just been totally overlooked. I mean, the amount of centre mids who people want us to sign, and I've always been sitting there thinking, we've got Jordan Henderson there. He's our captain. He's not going, I don't think he's going anywhere, and I'm just so happy that he's now playing it, and as well, it's in a position that he's not used to playing. Yeah, he's not used to playing this position,
Not that deep.
And going back to the miss, obviously he should be scoring them, and I am leaning towards defending him a bit. But when you watch that back, he had to put that high, and if he puts that low on the floor, it's blocked. There was 9 players in his way, and Wes Morgan was stretched out, so he had to put that high, and coming in at that pace on sort of the half volley. He catches it a little bit lower, that's in. But there was no other option for me other than try and attempt to put it in like he did. And okay, he missed it, but, it doesn't really bother me that he misses that. The same as we just totally overlooked Lucas's mistake before. If he continues to do it, and I'm sure if it happens at Chelsea away, and it's 0-0 with 5 minutes to go when he does it, then, people can rightly, get on his back. But, yeah, but, I'm more than happy with Henderson. I think he's quality. And for me now, it's Chan doesn't get in that team for me over Henderson, whereas all summer it was Chan's playing. Where does Henderson fit in?
That's the nutty thing when you think about that thing. we can in danger of getting too positive about this one win. But at the end of the day, we're looking at now. If we go back to August the 13th, whenever the season kicked off, if you could have had everyone fit, first 2 names on your team sheet if you're Klopp are Emre Can and Phil Coutinho. And you probably, if you're saying you can have one striker, everyone would have picked Divock Origi as well. Now, those 3 lads didn't start that game yesterday for differing reasons. And I think if we were all picking a team now for Chelsea, I'm not sure any 3 of them would get back in if fully fit. That's how good we were. I mean, we've talked about Jordan Henderson. You boys are rightly praising him. I've maybe gone too thick on one miss. But by the same token, no one's rushing to talk about Daniel Sturridge and Jürgen Wijnaldum.
They're both down, mate. They're next on the agenda. 2 more. I was about to link it and say 2 more underrated performances where Sturridge and Wijnaldum. So you've jumped ahead, but no, it is right. You know, it's seamless. Wijnaldum, I thought, I'm with you, Rob. That I actually thought that was probably his best game. He's obviously only been here a short time, but I thought, whether it was what Dan talked about how you almost focus on a player because you're like, well, let's see what this fella does. Yeah. And you know, consciously or not, I'm gonna end up following around the pitch and see what he's doing. And I think I was doing a bit of that, but I thought I'm seeing him nick the ball a lot here. I'm seeing him carry it. I'm seeing him play it simple and just sort of join in. Like he kept ending up noticeably, I thought, ending up around the number 10 position, even though he's officially sort of a deeper player, if you like. And I thought he was decent. I mean, it looks to me he might be another one, I think, at the moment where his confidence isn't quite right around his shooting. Because he had a couple of mad shots, like didn't really put anything behind them. And I think we've seen that in other games as well. Whereas if you look back on the highlights reel of Newcastle, he's blamming them. He's got a great shot on him, and he hasn't really hit one like that for us yet. And I wonder whether that's just that'll come. I hope so.
When we think about Firmino a year ago, you said, under Rodgers, the player he was then to now, you don't just walk in. I mean, Mané bucks the trend really by looking like Suarez for 3 games, but that's not normal. So Wijnaldum, this quiet, steady start.
He's got a couple of assists now. I mean, it's only a little layoff to Lallana, but nevertheless, it's
good.
He's still in the box to do
cool,
it, though, isn't
it?
It's
cool.
He holds it up really well there. It's very composed.
Yeah, he was, and the other one, as you say, Rob, Sturridge. I think that was an underrated performance. Glenn, did you think he was a little underrated in that? He's not doing the traditional Daniel Sturridge stuff, perhaps. I mean, he could have had a couple of goals, to be fair. I'm not sure there's much he can do on the one where it's basically Schmeichel makes himself big. You know, what else can you do? You could just hit it at him and it might go in and it might not. I'm not sure I'd slaughter him over that. But, obviously sublime back heel for Mané. He makes the space as well, noticeably for Firmino's first with his run, pulls the defender away. And it almost felt to me, I mean, I hate when people start writing at length about body language and all that bollocks. But nevertheless, let's do it. He looked a happier fella to me on Saturday. You know what I mean? We saw the face at Spurs and all that sort of thing. And, there was obviously the interview post-Bert. And this looked to me like a man happy and a man looking to impress as well. And a man showing he can be part of this team. Yeah,
he really looked... It was a game where it kind of dispelled the suggestion that he can't fit into a Klopp side because... the goal for Firmino's first was just textbook of what Klopp wants from his forward 3, pulling wide, and then the other one filling in that space. And then even before that, I think he tracks back into Liverpool's own half. That's and right, intercepts Leicester's pass and then passes it off and then gets right back to the other end of the pitch. I just thought some of his movement on the day, I think Gibbo mentioned on a show earlier this week that he might have had to adapt his game. He's not bursting through the lines, which he did for Mané's goal, to be fair. He's running through on goal, but some of his movements and intelligence moving in between the centre half and the right back, and even towards dropping deep into the midfield. I think Daniel Amate, who's trying to replace Kante at Leicester, there was one point, he's 21, and he just looked around as if saying, I don't know what I'm doing here, because Sturridge's movement was just pretty much everywhere and so unpredictable and so intelligent and so hard to track that, he deserved a goal. He deserved probably 2 goals with that performance, and he's obviously not going to get, the limelight's going to be taken by Firmino, deservedly so probably. But it was a really good performance, and he can play in a Klopp side, which is just dispels that notion.
I mean, if we're focusing on the team like Klopp wants us to, rather than individuals, but I mean we're always going to do that, aren't we? But the team as a whole, you've got to be happy with the team performance. There's not much to sort of pick at. I mean, you know, I know Neil would normally do the whole back to front business and all that, but I kind of think there's not a lot to say about some of them. I mean, Milner and Klein, solid, did the job, played well, looked good footballers. What else do you say?
I think it was. I mean, it was a very good team performance, and I did think at one point, watching the match, I was thinking the interesting thing about this style of play it's a little bit, sometimes a bit sort of, you know, seat of your pants type stuff, isn't it? Where if the opposition just nicks the ball off your toes, at that point you're in massive trouble. That is the way the game works. But I was thinking all summer, as soon as it was really clear that Klopp wasn't interested in signing a defensive midfielder, I was convinced from them that he wants the team to be the defensive midfielder. He doesn't want a specific man doing that job. He wants everybody working hard. And I think that's part of the reason why, you know, I wonder whether Coutinho does walk back into the side, like Rob was saying before, because, you know, he doesn't necessarily, you know, when he's tracking back, I think somebody said on a show before about the fact that Moreno gets no help down the left-hand side when Coutinho's on there because he doesn't really track back in the same way as some of the other midfielders do. But it was an all-round team performance, and I think I actually thought Sturridge looked maybe a yard or two off the pace at times, but it was his best team performance, I think, his best performance that helped other people out that I've seen him give in a long time, and certainly under Klopp. And it was like he was out to prove that he can be that sort of player. I still think there's times when he just is a split second off giving a pass that he could give because he's trying to see whether he could score. But that's strikers, that's what they do. You know, it's not something necessarily to be critical about. But he was definitely part of the team, and as you say, Gareth, the team in general, I think, just played really well.
I thought Lucas was very good.
He was. Well, about what Adam was talking about, really, about how Liverpool play, it is quite on the edge at the time.
Yeah.
And he seems to me, won that time and again on Saturday, just read it. He read what Leicester were going to do, and he's just in the right place so many times.
Yeah, I thought, you know, it's hard to push that mistake out of the way in terms of colouring your judgment, but certainly afterwards, he more than made up for. He was spectacularally good. He looked like he'd been playing that position all his life. What impressed me is how he makes up for his lack of height, actually. When
he's good in the air.
When their set pieces were coming in, I was looking at Matip to be the first, but he was the man, he was most aggressively attacking their stuff. I thought he was really good.
I saw somebody on Twitter say something like, you know, Lucas will be in trouble when we come up against a tall team. And I was like, what do you think Leicester are? They're not like all
pure yard dogs.
They're set piece specialists with massive lads.
Yeah, and he wasn't phased at all, really, was he?
We mentioned Matip briefly. I mean, I think we should probably touch on him because you know, that's his home debut. Let's not forget, and he was great as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was totally unfazed, wasn't he? I'm really looking forward to seeing him play week. You know, with increasing regularity. I really like the look of him. I think he's going to score us some goals from set pieces. It was a feature of his game, I think, in Germany, and he's not quite got there yet, but you can see it. You can see maybe at Tottenham there are a couple more signs than there were at the weekend, but I think that's going to happen. Does Lovren walk straight back in over Lucas, I suppose, is the question. I think, yeah, but it now feels as though that's a good, with Klavan as well, we've almost, touch wood, sorted a problem position. Touch wood being the operative word here.
I think with Matip as well, you've got to look at his first two games have been against Kane and Vardy. You know, and he's come out with flying colours. They haven't troubled him at all, either of them. And, you know, Costa, obviously coming up on Friday, is the next big one. It will be interesting, yeah, but the fact he's played so well in the previous two games, you're confident, aren't you, going in? It's going to take
different
Costa
partners as well.
Exactly. It's going to take Costa to do something really, really good, I think, to get the better of him. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, there was times there at the weekend. I mean, it sounds mental, and I you know, don't be getting at me on Twitter and texting and that. But
don't at me.
Yeah, don't at me as usual. But he reminded me of Hippier, you know, just the way he plays. You know, he's
no nonsense.
No nonsense, but he's dead intelligent. He doesn't
bring it out.
Exactly, and when it needs to be hoofed, he'll get rid of it. You know, he's obviously the same size and height and stuff like that. And
it's interesting that he actually said himself, and it kind of rang alarm bells for me when he said it before the season. He said, I've sort of looked at the Premier League and I think maybe I might struggle with the physicality, and I thought, oh, here we go. And I was thinking that he best be getting on the stakes and the weights then over the summer if that's the case. But he wasn't struggling with that side of things, was he? I mean, there's a great one with Vardy where he just held him off forever. until he eventually got the free kick. Yeah,
I think when you're that big though as well, he's probably underestimating his own strength. You know, like he's massive, isn't he? So although he mightn't be like stocky massive, it's still going to take a lot to knock him off the ball.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he's gangly, he's awkward, and he's dead fast as well. Again, you don't want to be getting ahead of yourself because we've had this loads of times, haven't we? But so far, so good with him. Like, and considering we haven't got like amazing centre halves, I think that's easier for him as well. He's come into a team where we've been screaming out for someone to just be half decent at the back. So I think that works in his favour. Like, yeah, definitely.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is just I was looking at it Saturday. I was just thinking. I mean, this might be very simplistic, and apologies if so, but it almost looks to me now that Klopp is going. It's in his thinking almost that just get as many lads who are decent footballers on the pitch. It's almost like that's the thinking, including the fullbacks, including the centre halves. And then when you've got a team like Leicester who are going to try and come and lock up, it just means when you've got so many people forward, including where the positions of Milner and the positions of Klein, you just got options everywhere, and it means you can drag them around. I mean, I thought it was brilliant. The goal that ends up with Lallana putting it in the back of the net. Sturridge nearly scores that before that. But and there was real patience in the way they built up again. It went out, it goes out to the other side, it comes back, and then Lallana puts it in. And I just thought, you compare and contrast that to even Burnley the other week, where they were a bit impatient and they were taking those pot shots that unfortunately Coutinho still did when he came on straight away. But the rest of them didn't do that, and I almost thought, is the idea here then that I'll just fit in as many good ball players into the side, people who are comfortable on the ball, and then we'll take it from there?
Well, I think a case in point of that is Milner, in a strange way, because he's not a left back. Obviously, he's not a natural person in that position, but he's an intelligent player on the ball. He's one of the more mature players, one of the stronger personalities in the squad. And you don't want him in midfield because the midfield that we've got is fast moving, interchanging, all that sort of stuff. So the best way to get him onto the pitch is to put him into a position where there isn't somebody who is significantly better than him. I agree. And do you know what though? I think looking at the Burnley game, it was poor and there's no getting away from it and all that sort of stuff. But if you said to me that for the rest of the season, every team that we play that's going to play a deep lying defence, we get 80% of possession and have 26 shots or something like that. If we had that for all of those games, we're going to win more than we don't in that situation. And it was just a slight lack of intelligence, as you say, people having pot shots rather than being a bit more patient with it. And now we've just got so many options. That's the beauty of it. We did that without Coutinho playing. We did it without Origi coming off. We did it without Chan being in the team, all of that sort of stuff. So there's loads of options now. That means that we can change it around and do horses for courses.
Yeah, just going on to the point that getting as many good players on the pitch. I think there's also a case of, to an extent of that, getting as many good players in the box as possible. Yeah. I think there's a point in the second half where I sort of think Wijnaldum's a bit like a catapult because he literally was running into the box as if his life depended on it at a point in the second half. And we were speaking to Cameron Brannigan last week, and he was saying, throughout the pre-season, he was being told by Klopp, literally anyone on the pitch who's close to the box, just get in it. Doesn't matter if you're a left back, a centre back, or a right back, or where you shouldn't be. Just get in that box, and because if you've got good players in the box, then anything can happen with their quality.
It gives the defenders something to think about, doesn't it? It doesn't matter how good you are as a defender. If there's 3-4 of you and 7 of the opposition, it doesn't matter how good you are. You've got to be thinking, well, who should I take here? What should I do? Blah blah blah. So yeah, I totally agree with.
Yeah, it feels like he's happy, Dan, doesn't it, to take more and more risks to get goals. I mean, there's all kinds of stats flying around about Liverpool scoring the most goals now in the calendar year, and I think they've gone past 100 under Klopp and all that sort of thing now. So He loves the goals type of thing. Yeah. And it might leave the gate open at the other end a few times, and it is a bit last ditch at times, but nevertheless it's good to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds obvious, but that's how you win games.
Yeah.
But by scoring goals. And the best season in recent history was exactly the same. It didn't matter how many we conceded, we just wanted to go out and score as many as possible, and it almost won us the league. Yeah. So even if that's not how Klopp you normally plays, which I think it is, but even if it wasn't, anyone's going to look at that and go, well, Liverpool almost won that league by doing that. It just makes sense. It sounds stupid, but it makes sense. And when you haven't got the best defensive players at your disposal, for me, it's going to sound mad, but it makes even more sense to just say, do you know what, we're not going to keep teams at 1-0, but I know that was a mistake at the weekend, but there's always something, whether it's the goalie or whether the other week, the pass from Klein against Burnley, there's always seems to be something where we'll concede goals. So to combat that, just go out and score as many as you can and give the opposition. We said on the same show last week, give Leicester something to worry about. Let's just fly out at Leicester and let them worry about us. And for me, with the players that we've got now, I'd do exactly the same against Chelsea, and hopefully Klopp would. You just go straight out against Chelsea and go all sound. We'll have like 5 men in your box at all times. So let's just do that, and then and see how Chelsea cope with that. Do you know what I mean?
It's mad.
Sorry about that pause in the background. 2 Unlimited going off in the background.
You literally can't switch it off. It's quite a comedy moment, not one for radio, but.
I mean, I'd certainly agree with Dan, but I also think it's mad how just missing out on the league by 2 points made everybody go, we need to sort the defence out. Like as if that scoring 100 goals didn't quite work out for us. It's like Andy's trying to draw a close. That's it now.
We get the hint.
That's all, folks.
but Adam's right though, because that season I looked at it like, let's sort the defence out. But then you looked at Chelsea home and thought, well, if we had someone else who could have scored in that game, I was just looking at the total opposite way. Just go and beat Chelsea at home. That don't not concede. Just get back at them and score another couple of goals.
Well, we're talking about Chelsea. Let's make that the last thing we talk about, because that is on Friday and it is fairly soon. There'll be loads of shows previewing that show in depth and all the usual articles and everything else. It's a compacted week, but we're going to work hard like we always do, and it'll all be out there. But I just wanted to ask you all then, we're all happy with the team performance. We're all pretty much happy. It seems going through the list there of the individuals as well. So Chelsea's obviously a different test, though. Nevertheless, it's away again. Is anyone around the table making any big changes, or do you just think it pretty much picks itself?
I don't see why. I think the problem, and it's obviously why managers get paid the big bucks, but I think the problem is if he changes the team and we don't win, then everyone's going, well, why has he changed the team? We battered Leicester there. What's the problem? I think the only question mark for me is the Lovren-Lucas situation. But again, I wouldn't be bothered either way, especially if the state of Lovren's eye, if he's only got a little tiny crack that he can look out of. I'd rather have, Lucas playing anyway. So it's not... I also think Lucas would be quite good at dealing with the snidey nature of Costa. I think Lucas is, mature enough and intelligent enough to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he will.
So for me, I just don't see why you change it, really.
Well, did anyone have a problem? I saw some suggestions like there's thousands of people on Twitter and you can find a mad one if you want. But there was some suggestions that I saw on there and elsewhere about why have you got a midfielder playing centre half when you've got a centre half that you've bombed out essentially in Sakho. Was anyone thinking about Sakho at the weekend? I certainly wasn't, but yourselves, Glenn.
Not at all, no. He wasn't even part of the under-23 squad.
I know, noticeably, yeah.
And not even on the bench or anything, so I don't know. The Klopp straight battered it at his press conference last week. Didn't really say anything. I always get the case that just maybe because Lucas and Klavan aren't going to play that much, and you need to have like real professionals. I don't want to, I'm going to get slated for this for slating Sakho, but after the Everton game under Rodgers, he stormed out when he wasn't playing. Estonia's manager has called Klavan one of the most professional, the most professional player he's ever worked with. And then we spoke to Michael Beale and he said he'd take 1,000 Lucas Lavers every day because he's such a good influence around the dressing room, even for the youngsters and stuff. So I think it's just a case of that. And in the case of Lucas, it's in case of emergency, break glass and use Lucas because he can do a job anywhere. And although that mistake did happen, he had a really good game. And he hasn't let anyone down. He hasn't let Klopp down.
I think he's great. I like how he constantly reinvents himself and annoys everyone by getting back in the side. It's a lovely little side piece for me. Was there anything else I wanted to mention? No, I think we're pretty much there now. You know, so Leicester have found out that they're only half a football team compared to the boys in red. And I'm hoping Chelsea find out the same thing on Friday, as I'm sure we all are. So thanks to Dan, Glenn, Adam and Rob. Thanks to Andy, as ever, for producing. That's been the Anfield Wrap this week. Plenty more on the site this week in terms of shows and written content. Do check that out. Look at our Facebook, look at our Instagram, and look at our YouTube. Up the Reds.
That's all, folks.